This Day in Sports History. Well, hey there, and welcome back to the start of Year 3 for This Day in Sports History, the podcast. This is your host, Steve White. Appreciate you joining me today, and, always glad to have you along for the journey. It is November 30th, and on this day, Ernie Barnes was drafted twice. Bo met the Boz in Seattle, and an Iron Bowl ended in a most dramatic fashion. That plus a few more stories for you, and stick around until the end for a non-sports fun fact about a very fortunate woman. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, cologne, and many more personal care products in a large variety of scents, you're sure to find something that's perfect for you or that special someone in your life. Check them out at sterlingsoap.com. Let's start with what happened on this day in 1959 when Ernest Barnes was drafted to play professional football twice. Now, you may be asking yourself, who is Ernest Barnes? And I'll tell you, his bust is not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He never made a Pro Bowl, and his career did not span more than a handful of years. This was the 1960 NFL Draft being conducted at the end of the 1959 collegiate football season. LSU's Billy Cannon was the first overall selection in that draft by the Los Angeles Rams. The draft featured future Hall of Famers Johnny Robinson, Ron Mix, along with future All-Pros Don Meredith and Tom Moore. Well, in the 8th round of that draft, the Washington Redskins selected Ernest Barnes, an offensive lineman from North Carolina Central. The Redskins had apparently not done their homework, though, and did not know that North Carolina Central was an HBCU. But as soon as the Redskin front office found out that Barnes was black, they rescinded their pick and selected Earl Kohlhaas out of Penn State instead. Now, Kohlhaas never played a down with the Redskins or any other team in the NFL or the AFL. So, Barnes' name went back into the hopper. In the 10th round, the defending and soon-to-be two-time champion Baltimore Colts selected him. The Colts didn't care about skin color. They already had a few black players on the roster like safety Johnny Sample and running back Lenny Moore. The Redskins would not put a black player on their roster until 1962. Barnes made it all the way to the final cut at the end of training camp the following year, but was released before the start of the 1960 season. He was picked up by the newly formed New York Titans of the newly established American Football League. But there was a big difference in the world champs of the NFL and the new Titans of the new AFL. Barnes said the Titans, which would later become the Jets, were a circus of ineptitude, and that it was a team pretending to be professional. After his teammate Howard Glenn died following a game in October of 1960, a story that I talked about here on the podcast back on October the 9th, Barnes requested his release, fearing that he or others might follow Glenn to the grave because of the Titans circus. Barnes was picked up by the San Diego Chargers, where he played a season and a half and then played 2 seasons with the Denver Broncos. Ernest became Ernie in the papers, and he tolerated football. It was a means to an end for him. He hated the violence of the game, but he also knew that he had a second love and passion to fall back on, and that was painting. And while the name Ernie Barnes may not ring a bell with you on the football field, I'm going to bet that you have seen his art, especially if you're a Gen X kid like me, or if you happen to like the music of Marvin Gaye. Barnes was born in Durham, North Carolina, and he grew up and came of age in the Jim Crow segregated South. His paintings depicted elongated African-American figures, mostly with their eyes closed, dancing or playing sports, spinning records, marching in a marching band, or other various activities. Marvin Gaye used a version of his painting The Sugar Shack on his 1976 release of his album I Want You. Another version of The Sugar Shack was used in the closing credits of the 1970s sitcom Good Times. The Good Times version sold at auction in 2022 for north of $15 million. The Marvin Gaye album cover version is owned by Eddie Murphy. Well, a few weeks after he was drafted on this day in 1959, the Colts were back in the championship game in a rematch with the New York Giants. The Colts invited Barnes to the game and stand with the team on the sideline. After the game, Barnes went home and he put palette knife to canvas, crafting an image that he had in his brain, committing it to canvas in about an hour. It's a different style than what he would later become known for, but it showed his artistic promise. Barnes kept the painting, which was titled The Bench, refusing many offers to sell it. It was the flashpoint, though, of a burgeoning artist and professional football player, just getting started. How about another story about a guy who was drafted not once, but twice in the NFL draft, but this was for completely different reasons. On this day in 1987, Bo met the Boz on the football field, and Bo won. Bo Jackson had been the top pick of the 1986 NFL draft by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but after a pre-draft incident by the Bucs cost Bo a chance to play his senior baseball season at Auburn, he held a grudge and he refused to report to Tampa. So he ended up back in the NFL draft in '87. Bo was enjoying playing professional baseball with the Kansas City Royals, and most teams were not willing to give a guy money to play baseball into late September or October and then report to play football. So it was not until the 7th round of the '87 draft that Bo was taken by the Los Angeles Raiders. Now, Brian Bosworth wanted to be a Raider. He felt his personality fit with Al Davis's team, but instead, since he still had college eligibility left, he was put in the June supplemental draft and he was taken by the Seattle Seahawks, a team that he had written a letter to instructing them not to draft him. He wound up there anyway, signing the richest rookie contract in the NFL up to that point. Bosworth was a bit of a talker, if you might remember, and in the lead-up to this one, he said he was going to shut down the explosive, electrifying Jackson, his fellow rookie. Bo preferred to do his talking on the football field with his legs. So on this night, the Raiders were in Seattle playing in the Kingdome on Monday Night Football. Early in the second quarter, Bo caught a touchdown pass from Mark Wilson to give the Raiders a 14-7 lead. On their next possession, LA was backed up to their 9-yard line. The Raiders' backfield at this time was Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen, and it didn't seem to matter who you gave it to. You always felt like something good was going to happen. Here's Al Michaels with the call for ABC that night.
3rd down and 6 at the 9. And Bo Jackson to the 20 and out in front, and only one man to beat, and easily can't run him down. He had the angle, but there goes Bo, and nobody catches Bo. Touchdown.
He may not stop till Tacoma. He's gone.
Portland.
He just went by Spokane.
And there go the Raiders into final. What a scene.
Come on back, guys.
Oh, he was flying.
So if you don't remember the end of that play and didn't pick it up from the commentary, well, Bo did not stop running full speed until he got to the end zone, and his momentum carried him up into the tunnel past the end zone. One of the guys who had been chasing Bo but had been left in the dust was number 55, Brian Bosworth. But Bo was not done yet. His more iconic meeting with the Boz was still to come. In the third quarter, with the Raiders up 27-7, LA was knocking on the door again. The score sheet simply reads Jackson 2-yard run. But this play was so much more than that. It was a statement.
You can't wait till he leaves. 3rd and 1 from the 2. Here's Bo. And here goes Bo for the touchdown. He and Bosworth one-on-one, and Jackson just shoves him into the end zone.
I suggested a handicap of 18. How about 20 pounds? Watch the Boz. He plays it perfectly. Flows to the football. Meets Bo Jackson at the 2. Sorry. 220 beats 240. Easily.
Bosworth got bulldozed by Bo, and there was a little extra involved, some pent-up aggression for all the talk about stopping him. There was no stopping Bo on this night. He racked up 221 rushing yards for a new Monday Night Football record to go along with his 3 touchdowns and one powerful statement made. On this day in 1974, Southern Cal staked Notre Dame 24 points and then went on an offensive tear for the ages. This was the number 5 Fighting Irish at the LA Coliseum against the 6th-ranked Trojans. Notre Dame looked like they were going to make this a snooze fest, taking a 24-0 lead in the second quarter. Now, it may be cliche sometimes to talk about momentum swings, but in this instance, Big Mo definitely swung from the Irish to the Trojans when Pat Hayden found Anthony Davis for a 7-yard touchdown in the closing seconds of the half to put Southern Cal on the board. The PAT was blocked, leaving the score at 24-6 at the break. USC head coach John McKay was not a fiery, get-in-your-face kind of a coach, so there wasn't any screaming or yelling, paint-the-walls with colorful words kind of speech delivered at halftime. Instead, the message was simply, guys, you're better than that. Just relax, take a deep breath, and we need somebody to step up and do something. That calm, measured speech landed just right for Davis. The Trojans were set to get the opening kickoff of the second half, and he knew just what he had to do. Here's Keith Jackson with the call that day for ABC.
Here's the kick. McLaughlin knocks it high and deep. And Davis, 2 yards deep in the end zone, will bring it back. The wedge gets him to the 20. He breaks it at the 25. He's long gone at the 40. It's now a foot race, and here goes Anthony Davis for 102 yards and a touchdown.
They went for 2, but they came up a half-yard short. But from that point on, everything went Southern Cal's way. Davis scored 2 more times on runs of 6 and 4 yards, and by that point, they had the lead, but they weren't done scoring points yet. The coach's son, John McKay Jr., reeled in 2 Hayden passes and turned those into touchdowns, one from 18 and another from 44 yards. The Irish turned the ball over 4 times in the second half, and the Trojans took advantage of them. After a Notre Dame fumble, USC scored on the next play. And then Charles Phillips picked off a pass and returned it 58 yards for the final score. Southern Cal won the game 55-24, and amazingly, all of their points were scored in just under 17 minutes of game time. Now, whether this was the impetus or it was part of the plan all along, Notre Dame coach Ara Parseghian resigned a few weeks later, sticking around to coach their Orange Bowl win against Alabama. And speaking of Alabama, the Crimson Tide won their 6th straight Iron Bowl last night, beating Auburn 27-20 on a TD strike with 3 minutes 50 seconds left in another great game in this Iron Bowl series. While Auburn fans lick their wounds today, at least they can look back on what happened on this day in 2013 and the infamous Kick 6. This was the 78th edition of the Iron Bowl, featuring the top-ranked and 2-time defending national champion Alabama Crimson Tide and number 4 Auburn. Alabama was a double-digit favorite in this, despite the fact that Auburn was a one-loss team and the game was being played at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Alabama took a 21-7 lead in the second quarter after T.J. Yeldon scored on a 1-yard run. The Tigers made it a 7-point game again before the half ended on a Trey Mason 1-yard plunge and then tied it up early in the third quarter. Now, this game came down to some big plays. First, Alabama struck in the fourth quarter after an Auburn punt was downed inside the 1. Their backs seemingly against the wall, Nick Saban did not call for a between-the-tackles run to get some breathing room. Instead, he called for a little out and up. And here's Vern Lundquist with the call for CBS that night.
Play action, McCarron, how about this decision? Going deep, Amari Cooper is there, has it, loose, down the right side, there are no flags, and that is a 99-yard touchdown, McCarron, Cooper, Alabama leads.
That made it 28-21 Bama, and it stayed that way until the final minute. With 45 seconds left, the Tigers had a 1st and 10 at the Alabama 40. Auburn QB Nick Marshall had already run for 99 yards and a touchdown, so you can excuse an Alabama player for being wary of Marshall when he escaped the pocket. The play looked like a read option. Marshall kept the football and he sprinted to open space to his left, drawing the defenders towards him, leaving Sammy Coates all alone. Just before he crossed the line of scrimmage, Marshall threw the ball to Coates, who had nothing but green grass in front of him. Ball game tied again at 28. However, there were still 32 seconds left in the game. There was still time for a play or two and a possible winning field goal. With 7 seconds to go, a handoff to T.J. Yeldon picked up yardage inside Auburn territory down to the 38, where he was pushed out of bounds. The clock read triple zeros, but Saban argued that there was at least 1 second left. Replay officials confirmed it, giving Alabama the opportunity to kick the game-winning 56-yard field goal. Here's Auburn's play-by-play man Rod Bramlett with the call for the Auburn Sports Network that night.
So I guess if this thing comes up short, he can field it and run it out. All right, here we go. 56-yarder. Does not have the leg. And Chris Davis takes it in the back of the end zone. He'll run it out to the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. Auburn's going to win the football game. He ran the missed field goal back. He ran it back 109 yards. They're not going to keep him off the field tonight. Holy cow. Oh, my God. Auburn wins. Auburn has won the Iron Bowl. Auburn has won the Iron Bowl in the most unbelievable fashion you will ever see. I cannot believe it. 34-28.
The vibrations from Jordan-Hare during that play actually registered on state seismographs and were felt by the sensitive devices as far away as Huntsville, about 200 miles north of Auburn. Let's go back to 1876, and on this day, Yale and Princeton played the first collegiate football game on Thanksgiving. Now, of course, watching and playing football on Thanksgiving is a tradition for a lot of families across the U.S., and it got its start on this day 149 years ago. Now, you gotta first know that the traditional date of Thanksgiving being the fourth Thursday in November did not start until 1942, and prior to that, many dates were used. Yale and Princeton squared off in less than ideal conditions in Hoboken, New Jersey this day in front of about 1,000 fans, made up of interested locals and alumni of the two schools. It was cold and rainy, and the field was so hard that everybody that day walked away with bumps and bruises. The New York Times reported on the action that day, describing the ball used as an oval and made of leather, which was more than likely a rugby ball, and the game resembled rugby more than a modern football game. Yale wore blue skull caps, blue shirts and stockings, and white flannel pants. Princeton was decked out in their school colors of black and orange. After a while, the football game/rugby match devolved into what one journalist described as a Greco-Roman wrestling match. But one constant from then and now was the apparent use of trash talk. The words may be a little bit different today, but a reporter from the Daily Herald overheard a Princeton lad say, "Just wait a while and we will show these fellows something." Apparently they never got around to showing those Yaleys something, though. Yale won the game 2-0, and that was 2 scores counted as 1 point, not a safety. But the game was played as football on Thanksgiving, starting a tradition that carries on to this day. Later in the 19th century, university teams from Kansas, Missouri, Michigan, and others also began playing football on the Thanksgiving holiday. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. Violet Jessup considered herself to be a very fortunate woman. She survived not 1, not 2, but 3 shipwrecks: the Olympic in 1911, the Titanic in 1912, and the Britannic in 1916. Her ordeal with the Britannic was the closest that she came to perishing, hitting her head and then being sucked below the surface when the keel of the ship sank. But she survived to tell the tale of all 3 of her shipwreck experiences. That's all I've got for you today. Come on back tomorrow for another This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.